not about morality. It is about reality. Machiavelli believed that a leader must be strong, a leader must be cunning, and sometimes a leader must be ruthless to succeed. His ideas may sound harsh, but they reveal timeless truths about our politics and human nature. Today, let's explore the first 4 chapters of the Prince. These four chapters lay the foundation for understanding different types of states, how they are acquired, and the challenges the rulers face. They may be centuries old, but their lessons, they still apply to modern day leadership, modern day politics, and modern day governance. In this book, The Prince, chapter 1, it talks about different types of principalities and how they are acquired. Machiavelli classified principalities, which means states into 2 types: hereditary, which means ruled by a family for generations, and new, recently conquered or recently established. This chapter is important because it helps us understand the leadership challenges vary based on how a ruler comes to power. Then comes the chapter 2. It talks about hereditary principalities. He explains that ruling a hereditary state is easier because people are used to a single ruling family. Stability is stronger unless the ruler makes major mistakes. This teaches us that tradition and continuity, they make governance smoother, but leaders should not take loyalty for granted. Then we will move to chapter 3. It is about mixed principalities. When a ruler expands into new territories, they face resistance from the people and they must work hard to secure their power. This chapter highlights the difficulty of ruling new lands and the need for strategic decision making, showing that winning power is not the same as keeping it. Then we'll move to chapter number 4. It talks about why the kingdom of Darius, conquered by Alexander, it did not rebel against his successor. Machiavelli analyzes why some kingdoms remain stable even after conquest. He compares centralized states where one ruler holds all power and feudal states where many nobles they share their power. This is crucial because it explains why some governments are easier to control than others, teaching leaders to recognize the strength and weakness of different political systems. What do we learn? These 4 chapters. We learn from these 4 chapters, they give us essential lessons in leadership and governance. The way a leader gains power, it affects their challenges and strategies. Stability is easier in traditional rule, but new rulers, they must be smart and they must be adaptable. Conquering a state is only the beginning. Keeping it is the real challenge. Understanding political structure, it helps leaders maintain control and prevent rebellion. Machiavelli's ideas, they may seem harsh, but they are brutally honest. His lessons remain relevant in politics, relevant in business, they are relevant in leadership today. As we go deeper into the Prince, the book, we will see how his advice still shapes the world around us. Let's talk about the first one, different kinds of states and how to conquer them. Machiavelli's work, The Prince, it provides a profound and timeless analysis of political power, leadership, and statecraft. His discussion of different kinds of states and how to conquer them, it offers critical insights into governance and political survival. Machiavelli classifies states into 2 primary categories: hereditary principalities and new principalities. Understanding their nature is essential for any ruler seeking to acquire and maintain power. Hereditary hereditary principalities, they are the easiest to govern because they rely on long-standing traditions and loyalty. Subjects are accustomed to the ruling family unless the ruler makes serious error. Unless the ruler makes serious errors, people will generally accept his authority. Stability is inherent in these states as long as the ruler does not alienate his subjects or neglect their responsibilities of governance. A historical example is the British monarchy. British monarchy, which has maintained continuity continually through centuries despite changes in government structures. The key to ruling a hereditary state successfully is maintaining the status quo and ensuring that traditions remain intact. In contrast, new principalities, they are more challenging to govern because they lack established legitimacy. The subjects they have been loyal to a previous ruler or they may resent the change imposed upon them. Machiavelli argues that new rulers, they must take swift and decisive actions to consolidate power. If a ruler is too talented, if a ruler is too lenient, opposition forces will regroup and challenge his authority. If he is too harsh, he risks alienating the population entirely. The key is to strike a balance. The key is to strike a balance between fear and respect. New principalities that can be acquired through personal ability, virtue, or fortune, luck, inheriting, or external support. Those gained by ability, they are more stable as the ruler has demonstrated competence and strength. Examples include Napoleon Bonaparte, who rose to power through his military genius and strategic plans. His rule was initially successful because he introduced reforms that benefited the people while maintaining strict control over opposition. On the other hand, those who gain power through virtue alone, such as rulers installed by foreign forces, they struggle to maintain control unless they take proactive measures to secure their authority. Machiavelli, he underscores the importance of eliminating threats. Eliminating threats immediately after acquiring power. A ruler must neutralize potential challenges before they can organize the system. The principalities, which means this principalities, it is evident in the rise of Julius Caesar, who gained power through a combination of military success and popular support. But he failed to eliminate all the opposition, leading to his assassination by conspirators who feared his growing influence. A more successful example is Chandragupta Maurya. Under the guidance of Chanakya, he eliminated the Nanda dynasty and established one of the most powerful empires in Indian history. By using a combination of military strength, strategic diplomacy, and administrative reforms, he secured his rule and ensured stability. One of Machiavelli's most famous principles is that it is better for a ruler to be feared than loved, if he cannot be. Fear is more reliable tool for maintaining power because love is fickle and dependent on circumstances. A ruler who relies solely on being loved will find himself vulnerable when his subjects' loyalty is tested. However, Machiavelli, he warns against excessive cruelty as it can provoke rebellion. The ideal ruler, he uses calculated display of strength to deter opposition by ensuring that his subjects benefit from his rule. A crucial strategy for maintaining control over a newly acquired state is to remove remnants of the previous regime. Machiavelli, he cites the example of the Romans who, after defeating Carthage in the Punic Wars, they destroyed the city entirely. Had they left Carthage intact, it could have risen against them again. This lesson applies to political takeovers as well. A new ruler must dismantle old power structures that could threaten his rule. Another method for securing a newly acquired state is to establish colonies or settlements in key areas. Colonies, they serve as outposts of control and help integrate the new territory into the ruler's domain. This strategy was employed by the British Empire, which established colonies in various regions to maintain control and suppress resistance. By creating new settlements and distributing land to loyal subjects, rulers can dilute opposition and strengthen their hold on. Machiavelli also discusses the role of mercenaries and auxiliary troops in warfare. He warns against relying on these forces as they are often disloyal and motivated by personal gain rather than loyalty to the ruler. Instead, a wise leader builds a strong native army that is committed to defending the state. This principle was evident in the success of Alexander the Great, whose army was fiercely loyal and well-trained, allowing him to conquer vast territories and maintain control. Ultimately, Machiavelli's insights into the nature of states and power, they remain relevant in modern politics. Leaders who seek to establish or maintain control, they must understand the dynamics of power. They must understand the dynamics of the power, the necessity of decisive action, and the importance of balancing fear and balancing respect. Whether in ancient Rome, whether in Napoleonic France, or contemporary geopolitics, the lessons of the prince, it continues to offer valuable guidance for those who navigating the complexities of leadership and statecraft. So, this is the first chapter from the Prince by Machiavelli. Now let's turn to the second part, hereditary monarchies. Hereditary monarchies, they are among the most stable forms of governance, primarily because people are accustomed to a single ruling family. Over time, loyalty to the ruling house is ingrained in the minds of the subjects, making transitions between rulers smoother. Machiavelli emphasizes that the continuity of tradition, it makes it easier for a hereditary prince to maintain power, provided he does not introduce sudden and drastic changes that disrupt societal order. However, this inherent stability does not mean that a hereditary ruler can afford to be complacent. A weak or incompetent monarch, he can be overthrown by ambitious individuals who capitalize on public discontent. A key lesson from Machiavelli's analysis is that a hereditary ruler, he must understand, he must respect the customs and expectations of his people. Disrupting traditions, it can lead to widespread resistance. A ruler who aligns with established norms, he will face minimal opposition. Whereas one who imposes radical challenges or radical changes, he risks alienating the very people who sustain his rule. A compelling historical example is Queen Elizabeth II, who ruled Britain for over 70 years. Her ability to balance tradition with gradual modernization, it ensured the continued relevance of the British monarchy in an era of rapid social and political transformation. She never abandoned the core principles. That defined the monarchy, but adapted to changing times by embracing media engagement and humanitarian causes strengthening public support for the institution. Conversely, the downfall of Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, it exemplifies the dangers of failing to address societal grievances. Tsar Nicholas II, he attached rigidly to autocratic rule while ignoring the suffering of his people. Economic hardships, military failures in World War I, and widespread dissatisfaction, they all culminated in the Russian Revolution of 1917, leading to the fall of the Romanov dynasty. It illustrates Machiavelli's warning that a hereditary ruler who does not command respect and fails to secure public loyalty is vulnerable to overthrow. Machiavelli, he also cautioned. Machiavelli also cautions that cruelty and injustice, it can provoke rebellion. While he advocates for a prince to be feared rather than loved, he warns against excessive cruelty that breeds hatred. Excessive cruelty that breeds hatred. A ruler who instills fear to fail governance and decisive actions, they will be respected, but one who is despotic and indifferent to the needs of his people, it invites revolt. A striking example is the fate of King Louis XVI of France. His failures to address the economic crisis, his indecisiveness, and his detachment from the struggles of his own people, it led to the French Revolution. When the people saw the monarchy as an obstacle to their well-being rather than as a protector of stability, they turned against it. People turned against it, culminating in the execution of the king and the abolition of the monarch. This case underscores Machiavelli's principle that a ruler must be politically astute and responsive to societal needs to avoid destruction. Another historical case that reinforces Machiavelli's warnings is the rule of Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in India. If you see, unlike his predecessors such as Akbar and Shah Jahan, who fostered religious tolerance and cultural integration, Aurangzeb's policies, they alienated large sections of society. His imposition of strict Islamic laws, heavy taxation on non-Muslims, and continuous military campaigns, they all drained the empire's resources and they fueled resentment among his people. The unrest and fragmentation that followed his reign led to the gradual decline of the Mughal Empire. This demonstrates Machiavelli's insight that a ruler who disrupts harmony within his realm through divisive policies or through divisive politics, it paves the way for internal collapse. Machiavelli's analysis of hereditary monarchies, it also highlights the importance of a ruler's adaptability. While tradition provides a foundation for stability, rigid attachment to outdated customs, it can render a ruler ineffective in changing times. A wise prince recognizes when to uphold tradition and when to introduce reforms that strengthen his rule without alienating his subjects. Consider the case of Emperor Meiji of Japan. When faced with the threat of Western domination, he initiated the Meiji Restoration, a series of political, economic and social reforms that transformed Japan into a modern industrialized nation. By carefully blending traditional values with modernization, he preserved monarchy while positioning Japan as a global power. His success exemplifies Machiavelli's teaching that adaptability is key to maintaining power in a rapidly evolving world. On the other hand, the downfall of Qing dynasty in China, it highlights the dangers of resisting necessary reforms. The conservative rulers of the late Qing era, They failed to modernize their military. They failed to modernize their economy. They failed to modernize their governance and structures, leaving China vulnerable to foreign invasions and internal rebellion. The inability to adapt, it led to the fall of the dynasty in 1912, reinforcing Machiavelli's principle that a hereditary ruler, they must recognize when change is necessary to preserve his authority. Machiavelli also advises that hereditary rulers, they should maintain a strong military presence to deter potential challenges. A ruler who neglects military preparedness risks being overthrown by internal conspiracies or external aggressors. This lesson is evident in the case of the Ottoman Empire. The early Ottoman Sultans, they maintained a powerful military to the Janissary Corps, which ensured stability and expansion. However, as latter rulers, they grew complacent and neglected military innovation. The empire declined. The Ottoman Empire declined, making it susceptible to external threats and internal rewards. Moreover, Machiavelli stresses that hereditary rulers, they should carefully manage their relationship with the nobility and common people. If a ruler alienates the nobility, he risks conspiracies and power struggles. If he disregards the needs of the common people, he faces mass uprising. Striking the right balance is crucial for a stable reign. For instance, the British monarchy, it has maintained its relevance by forging a strong connection with both the aristocracy and the public. Through symbolic acts of service, through symbolic acts of diplomacy and engagement, the monarchy has managed to retain popular support while navigating political transition. This approach aligns with the Machiavelli's view that a wise hereditary ruler, they nurtures alliances that reinforces their authority. In contrast, the collapse of the Bourbon monarchy in Spain after Napoleon's invasion in the early 19th century, it demonstrated the perils of alienating both nobility and common people. King Ferdinand VII's his erratic policies and disregard for national stability, it led to a widespread discontent, weakening the monarchy's grip on power. Machiavelli's analysis of hereditary monarchies, it provides timeless lessons for rulers and political leaders. A hereditary prince, they must balance tradition with adaptability. They must maintain public support. They must exercise controlled authority. They must ensure military strength. Now let's turn to topic number 3, mixed monarchies, the challenges of ruling conquered lands. In the Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli provides a profound insight into the art of ruling new territories, specifically discussing what he terms mixed monarchies. These arise when a ruler already in power over one region, he extends his dominion over another. Unlike hereditary principalities, where the ruler benefits from established legitimacy and tradition, mixed monarchies, they pose distinct challenges. The newly annexed population, they often resist foreign rule, driven by loyalty to their previous government, cultural differences, or fear of oppression. Without strategic governance, rebellion is inevitable. To consolidate power in a mixed monarchy, Machiavelli recommends several key strategies. Residing in the new territory, eliminating the old ruling class, maintaining the goodwill of the people, rewarding loyalty, and dealing decisively with opposition. These insights, they remain relevant across history, from the campaigns of Alexander the Great to the British rule in India. The importance of residing in the new territory. Let's talk about it. Machiavelli here asserts that the ruler should reside in the newly conquered land to ensure stability and direct oversight. When the sovereign is physically present, he can swiftly address disputes, suppress uprising, and demonstrate authority. A distant ruler, he relies on governors who may become corrupt, misinterpret policies, or lack the necessary influence to enforce laws effectively. A ruler's absence, it can also embolden rebels who see an opportunity to challenge foreign control. Alexander the Great served as a classic example of Machiavellian wisdom. He did not merely conquer lands, he integrated himself into their cultures. After taking control of Persia, he adopted Persian customs, dressed in Persian attire, appointed local administrators, and even married Roxana, a Persian princess. By doing so, he signaled to the Persian elite that he was not a mere conqueror, but a legitimate ruler who respected their tradition. His direct involvement in governance ensured stability in an otherwise vast, diverse empire. Conversely, European colonial powers, particularly Britain and India, they failed to integrate themselves into local traditions. British rulers, they lived in exclusive enclaves separated from the Indian population. They imposed a foreign legal and administrative system without adaptation to local norms, leading to widespread resentment and eventual independent movements. So, then Machiavelli advised that a conqueror must decisively remove the former ruling elite. The previous rulers, they have the most incentive to resist and reclaim power. As long as they exist, they serve as focal points for rebellion. The Ottoman Empire effectively managed vast diverse territories by eliminating the ruling elite and co-opting local institutions. Constantinople in 1453, Sultan Mehmed II, he allowed Greek Orthodox patriarchs to govern their own people under Ottoman supervision. This system, known as the millet system, it reduced resistance while maintaining imperial control. Contrast this with Napoleon's conquest in Europe, where he often deposed monarchs but left them alive or exiled. Many of these deposed rulers, such as the Bourbons in France and the Habsburgs in Spain, they became rallying points for counter-revolution. His failure to completely dismantle world ruling structures, it contributed to the eventual collapse of his empire. Machiavelli emphasizes that after securing power, a ruler must win the loyalty of his new subjects. The common people, unlike the elite, they are often more concerned with the stability and prosperity than with who govern them. A wise ruler must demonstrate justice, economic growth, and strong leadership to secure their support. The Roman Empire mastered the art of ruling conquered territories by offering partial citizenship, military protection, and infrastructure improvements. Rome did not simply conquer. It assimilated. By allowing local elites to become Roman citizens and rewarding loyalty with privileges, Rome ensured long-term stability. Compare this to British rule in India, where Indians were treated as second-class citizens under exploitative policy. The lack of social integration, it fueled resentment culminating in the Indian independence movement. So, Machiavelli underscores the importance of rewarding allies and punishing treason immediately. A ruler, he must establish clear consequences for betrayal while generously rewarding those who support him. Hesitation or inconsistency, it signals weakness and it invites further rebellion. Joseph Stalin, though a tough dictator, he applied Machiavellian's principles effectively. He eliminated rivals like Trotsky and Bukharin without hesitation. Those who showed unwavering loyalty, they were rewarded. They were rewarded with high positions and they were rewarded with privilege. His brutal methods, they ensured that opposition was crushed before it could gain momentum. Contrast this with the British handling of Indian princely states. While some local rulers, they were granted autonomy, the British failed to build long-term loyalty. Many Indian rulers, they resented British interference, leading to alliances against colonial rule. The lack of absolute loyalty eventually weakened the British lodge in India. Though written in the Renaissance era, Machiavelli's principles, they still apply to modern governments. Leaders who take control of new political territories, whether through elections, mergers, or economic expansions, they must understand. They must understand the nuance of ruling over diverse population. The lessons from the reigns are evident in various political strategies. If we take China's approach to Hong Kong, when Britain returned Hong Kong to China in 1997, China promised a one country, two systems policy, allowing some autonomy while gradually tightening its control. This resembles the Ottoman model of allowing limited local governance while ensuring ultimate authority. It remains with the central power. Russia's annexation of Crimea, Vladimir Putin, his strategy, it mirrors Machiavelli's. He eliminated pro-Ukrainian leadership, installed loyalists, and used economic incentives to win local support by swiftly suppressing the same. US intervention in Iraq and Afghanistan. Unlike Rome, the US failed to integrate or win the loyalty of local population. It removed ruling elites but did not effectively establish stable governance, leading to prolonged resistance. Let's talk about the art of conquering and governance. Machiavelli's insights on mixed monarchies, it remains timeless, ruling a newly acquired territory. It is not merely about military conquest. It requires political wisdom, strategic alliances, and cultural integration. Now let's turn to chapter number 4. Why the kingdom of Darius did not rebel against Alexander's successor. A deep political analysis. Let's check. Niccolo Machiavelli, in the book Prince, it delves into the nature of power, governance, and the sustainability of rule, offering timeless wisdom for political leaders, strategists, and anyone seeking to understand the mechanics of control. In chapter number 4, he examines why the Persian Empire under King Darius III did not rebel against Alexander the Great's successors, contrasting it with other forms of governance that are more susceptible to instability. This chapter presents profound lessons on centralized versus decentralized rule, the role of noble factions, and the practical applications of these insights in historical and modern context. Let's see. centralized power versus decentralized rule. Machiavelli makes a fundamental distinction between two types of states: centralized monarchies and feudal aristocracy. In a centralized monarchy, power is concentrated in the hands of a single ruler with an established bureaucratic system. In contrast, a feudal aristocracy, it consists of a ruler monarch who must share authority with powerful noble families who have their own regional basis of power. The Persian Empire under Darius III, it represented the former type. A highly centralized structure in which the king wielded absolute power and all officials, they derived their authority directly from him. When Alexander the Great conquered Persia, he merely replaced the king while keeping the administrative structures intact. This ensured a smooth transition of power and minimized rebellion because the people were accustomed to obeying a single authority. In contrast, feudal kingdoms such as France, they were structured differently. Power was dispersed among various nobles, each with their own loyalties and ambitions. Such systems are easier to conquer because nobles often have personal grievances against the ruling king and they may welcome an invader. However, they are far harder to control because these same nobles, they constantly seek to regain their power, leading to perpetual instability and rebellion. Machiavelli's insights, they can be seen throughout history. One striking modern example is the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Under Saddam Hussein, Iraq was a highly centralized state, similar to the Persian Empire. When the United States removed Saddam Hussein, it also dismantled the governing structure, leading to chaos, sectarian conflict, and prolonged instability. This was a classic case of failing to recognize the nature of power structures. Unlike Persia, where the system remained intact after a leadership change, Iraq was left without a functioning authority. Conversely, when China transitioned from Mao Zedong to Deng Xiaoping, the Communist Party maintained control, ensuring stability. Despite a shift in leadership and economic policy, the centralized governing structures they remained intact, preventing internal collapse. This mirrors the Persian case under Alexander's successor, where the administrative machinery of the empire, it continued to function efficiently despite a change in rulers. Another example is Japan after World War II. The United States allowed Emperor Hirohito to remain as a symbolic figure, ensuring that the Japanese people retained a sense of continuity. Although Japan underwent democratic reforms, the core governing structure, it was carefully modified rather than destroyed, allowing for a stable transition. Lessons learned from the Mauryan Empire and other historical cases. Indian Mauryan Empire under Emperor Ashoka, it provides another instructive example. Ashoka, he centralized government to a well-organized bureaucracy and a network of provincial governance. Even after his death, the administrative framework he established, it helped to maintain stability for years. However, once the empire fragmented and power became decentralized among regional rulers, instability and invasions followed. The lesson aligns with Machiavelli's argument. Centralized states, they endure better under new leadership than decentralized ones. Similar lessons can be drawn from the Roman Empire. Under emperors such as Augustus and Trajan, Roman functioned as a centralized state with a strong bureaucratic system. However, during the latter period of the empire, when military generals and regional governors, they gained more autonomy, civil wars, and political instability, they became rampant, ultimately leading to Rome's decline. Machiavelli's tragic recommendations for leaders. Machiavelli advises rulers to carefully assess the structure of the states they conquer. If a state has a centralized system, maintaining control is relatively straightforward. Replace the ruler, but preserve the administrative apparatus. If the state has independent factions or noble families, then new ruler must take additional measures. Eliminate or subjugate rival nobles. A wise ruler must ensure that no powerful noble families remain to challenge authority. Alexander succeeded in Persia because there were no strong local rulers who could resist his success. In contrast, Napoleon struggled in Spain because regional nobles and guerrilla fighters, they continuously opposed his rule. Win the loyalty of the people. In a decentralized state, the masses often suffer under the competing interests of local lords. A conqueror who can provide stability and fair governance, he can earn popular support, making it easier to maintain power. So, maintain key institutions. Rather than dismantling governance structures, an intelligent ruler, he preserves and co-opts them. The British, they successfully ruled India. Britishers successfully ruled India for nearly 2 centuries by working through existing local princely states and bureaucratic institutions rather than entirely replacing them. Use both force and diplomacy. Machiavelli, he asserts that power must be exercised with a balance of cunning and speed. A ruler must not rely solely on military conquest, but they must also use diplomacy, they must also use propaganda and calculated generosity to win power. In the end, the timeless relevance of Machiavelli's insight from the book of Prince. Machiavelli's lessons, they remain profoundly relevant today, not just for political leaders, but for corporate executives, military strategists, and even individuals navigating competitive environments. Machiavelli's teachings, they emphasize that leadership is not about morality, but about effectiveness. A successful leader must adapt to changing political reality, recognize the fundamental structure of the power they seek to control, act decisively to consolidate authority and eliminate threats, balance force with strategy to maintain long-term stability. From Julius Caesar to Napoleon, from Alexander the Great to Chandragupta Maurya, history proves that those who master power, they succeed. While those who fail to understand the power, they are inevitably overthrown. Political stability depends on understanding the nature of governance, the expectations of the ruled, and the necessity of strong leadership. Machiavelli ultimately poses a question to every leader. Will you adapt? Will you strategize? Will you rule wisely? Or will you make the mistakes of the fallen king and emperors of history? The choice, as always, the choice belongs to those who dare to wield power. Thank you.